Hey team, so before we get stuck into today's episode, which is a part 2 of last week's episode, I would like to thank everyone for listening. I guess the whole intention of the podcast is to be able to have meaningful conversation with awesome people. So to know that there's a couple hundred of you guys listening every week is a pretty cool feeling. So thank you. If you are enjoying the podcast and you have suggestions for guests or topics or anything, please send me a message, let us know. Hit me up on Instagram or email or anything like that. Or if you have other people that you think might benefit from these conversations, then please send them a link. Pause it for a second, jump on your phone, press that little share button and send it to someone who you think might get something out of these conversations. We are also on Spotify now, so apparently that's good. So for you Android humans, for anyone that, or iPhone as well, so Apple and Android, we're now available on Spotify. For you, well, you're already going to know because you're listening to it, so you're going to know where we're available. But if you are listening on iTunes and you wanted to jump on Spotify, you can do that. If you're listening on Podbean, same dealio. But yeah, today's episode is part 2 of Coop and Tommy chatting about certain topics for 15 minutes. We've got 3 topics today, heavily based around happiness. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get stuck in. My personal and business goal is to be just a little bit better every day. I believe everyone, especially normal people, have a story to tell. The Virtus podcast exists to help us all find small ways of consistent improvement by discussing the journey and experiences of each of our guests. All right. We're at week 2 of Coop and Tommy and Lockie talk things for 15 minutes. So if you missed last week, it's a bit wordy. If you missed last week, shoot yourself back to pause. Well, pause. Let me change my language. Pause for a second and scroll a little bit down in your podcast feed and jump back into episode 62. Part 1 of this episode, where we spoke about a bunch of different stuff. This is just a follow on from that. So we've got 3 more topics. We'll set the duck up, Samuel L. Quackson to quack every 15 minutes, and yeah, see what we dive into. So first topic for the day, lads. Oh, good. So this is Tommy's. The Virtus podcast just got a sponsor, 3 exclamation marks. Made Up Travel Incorporated has given us $10,000 to spend on a trip for 3 of us. Where do we go? What do we do?
Good. Let's do it.
Really
all
good.
Right. Awesome. Coop start.
Yeah.
Man.
10K, 3 of us. Good.
So,
I'm bringing KP.
You're bringing KP?
Yes.
Well,
sure.
So it means there's 6 of us. Yeah, that 10K is not going to go as far.
I think it'd be cool to do. I know Lockie's already done it, but South America would be awesome, or Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us have been to Africa.
I think we're talking about more uncharted, more less civilised, as we would call it, civilised, I guess, like Western civilised.
Yeah, and
places.
we can
pretty unfair to call places uncivilised.
No, but we can talk about like happiness levels and stuff, and obviously what we would as living in affluent first world societies, that the happiness levels that we have as a society are lower than those of some third world countries and war-torn areas and stuff like that. But that's for another topic. But I think what I'd love to do would be, and this kind of helps with my way of how I like to travel, but I would love to do a kind of like we pack a pack each.
Yeah.
Like perfect world, you do a pack each. We all go to the airport and we just jump on one of the first 5 flights. Like,
yeah, wow.
But it needed to be to another continent. So I think we'd put it maybe in a hat. We go Europe, South America, North America, Africa, and go to one of them.
Yeah, that's a cool way to do it.
Or like Asia, and just kind of raffle it off.
Yeah. And
give ourselves maybe like 10K. Obviously, wouldn't go that far.
Depends where you are. I feel like in Asia maybe.
Okay,
but it could go a fair way.
Say we can dip into our savings. Just go. We're jumping on a flight. Obviously, it's got to be somewhere where you can need a visa, and then we just travel from there. Yeah. And then we just decide as we go. Like,
what kind of stuff would you want to do along the way? Like, what are things that you do when you travel? So for me, I'm always looking for like coffee. Obviously, that's a big thing for me. Reason being, from my experience, I've always found that baristas and those kind of hospitality people are very plugged into the culture.
Yep.
The local culture. They understand where to go for drinks later, or where to go get the best local cuisine, what to do and what not to get stuck into doing the touristy generic version of that city or place.
Go off the beaten track a little bit.
They're so plugged in, and
Yep.
like imagine if someone came to Verdus or came to Common Folk when I was working and said, "Hey, I'm over here from Norway. What do you do on the peninsula?" Like, "Oh man, you do this, you do this, you do this." Like, you don't go to Jetty Row because they suck.
Yeah. Ding.
No, you definitely do, because Jetty Row is amazing and their pale ale is one of the best. You're welcome, Grant.
Your IPA sucks, so.
Well, it's not an IPA because only 5%. Sorry, Blake. But you would tell them so many amazing things to do, and you would get so excited and genuinely
so you use
proud
that as kind of like
your location.
A launch for each.
So trying to find some plugged in kind of similar aged people in those places is such a great way to kick off. Yeah. And often you'll see the sites. So for instance, in New York, you're gonna go past Times Square on your way to get good coffee and food. It's gonna happen. Like instead of maybe intentionally doing those things, like obviously in some places you have to, but
byproduct of your experience.
You'll get a locals experience instead of going on the tour or doing the generic version of it. Like experience it how a local would see like the Empire State Building daily from a different location than, I don't know, whatever else kind of does to see it.
That's a great example. Like, everyone will go up the Empire State Building to get a great view, but if you go up the Chrysler Building, then you get to see the Empire State.
Exactly, it's in your skyline. Like, and you get that from learning from locals. Although actually, there's this really cool rooftop bar which has an amazing view and really good cocktails, and you can see it from there. Like, awesome. Learning that from a local, you can build a relationship and a friendship and those kind of things.
I just this guy take me on a tour of Bolivia, like a tour of La Paz in Bolivia. So it's just like, how cool is this? Like, he's been here a week and a half. Like, what have been the best bits? He's been lucky enough to meet a few locals, and I jumped in. We hung out for the day and just did some really cool shit. And it was just like, I would have done none of this if it was just me. So I think, like from like going on from that point is just two kind of reasons I travel is just to experience cool shit that I haven't done or seen or whatever before. The unknown, because I guess I've got a fairly structured lifestyle, like, you know, you'll find me in the same place the same times most days, so having that lack of structure is really important to me, and just meeting cool people. So like obviously you get to a point where maybe you grow out of hostels a little bit, but like I loved being in hostels and just sitting at the bar or having breakfast and just talking to people. Like I met some, like I'll use my latest adventure as an example, but from when I left the group we were with for the last 3 weeks, like I just did what I felt I wanted to do. Like I knew where I was going, like I knew 3 or 4 stops along the way, but how I was going to spend those last 3 weeks, didn't really know. And the people I met and connected with, like still see their stuff popping up on Facebook now and like Instagram. So I've been able to connect with people from all over the world. So I think that connection is a big part, and that's what's important to me as well. But I think for the next trip or the next big trip, if we were to go, like I'd love to get a group of my favourite people in the world, do that kind of trip. So not as structured, we go here, we go here, we go here. On this day we do this, on this day we do this. Like it's just if we want to stay this place for an extra week, we do. If we want to, grab our stuff and jump on a plane to somewhere else, let's do it. I think the autonomy to be able to make those decisions, do that, but then the balls to be able to actually execute some of them rather than just saying, we should do this. And
some countries are easier to do it in others. Like, so trips I've done with Danny and Heath in the past, book stuff like the afternoon/evening of. You're like,
on your way
crap. Like, where are we staying tonight? Like, doesn't matter. Very easy in America because so many apps and things that you can use, and 24-hour check-ins is the best thing. That's big advice. Find places with 24-hour check-in because you never know what time you get there sometimes. But just having that ability to go, the day's mine. I can start it when I want to start it, and I can finish it when I want to finish it, and I can get exactly out of it what I want. And to be honest, like the things that go wrong, like missing trains in Scotland with Danny and things like that, they make for the best stories and experiences.
And you
don't really remember the stuff that goes exactly to plan, like as much. You remember the stuff that like went a bit awry or was a bit unexpected. If it goes exactly how you thought it was, why are you travelling? Like, you could have just stayed at home and imagined it to some degree. Like you want the uniqueness and
those unique experiences. Sure.
And being able to experience it and share it with people you love is probably like the best part of it. But also have those experiences and those times when you can just go and do it by yourself. I think I've talked about solitude a little bit, but that I think it's really important to want to or to understand what it's like to be by yourself and not necessarily need someone else there to enjoy it. I know that, say, if one of you boys or KP came with me on that trip, it would still have been amazing, but it would have been different. So like, I'd love to go back and experience like Machu Picchu and Iguazu Falls and Patagonia with other people because I get a whole different look at it. And like that, how people say like I'm guilty of it every now and again before I catch myself, but like, I've done New Zealand or I've done South America, like I've been go back. Yeah, exactly. I've been to 1% of 1% of that area.
Totally.
And you can go back to like I could go back to the same hostels in Bolivia and meet completely different people from completely different parts of the world and have a different experience.
There's definitely value in doing things by yourself, and I agree. Like, I went to the US by myself and I loved it, and I loved being able to just do my own thing and having the independence to, if I want to go somewhere one day, then I'll go and do it without having to check with someone else and make sure that they want to do that as well. But saying that, I'd love to go back, and I'd love to go back with some mates or with Sally Ann and do the same trip, and it would be completely different. And I think I probably would enjoy it now a lot more than I did when I was by myself.
And then it's knowing each other that you go with. So like, I know that there's a good chance that we'd probably get on really well going on a trip because we believe the same things in terms of like, we want to have that exploration part of it and not just everything locked in.
We want to have similar experiences.
Some people are more compatible to travel than others. Like some people like structured, organised because they couldn't deal with the, I don't know, unknown.
What's the thing? It's uncertainty, and people
it can, like, some places you can't be that. Like some places, as much as you like to be free and in the wind, like you just can't.
Especially those, like you said, undeveloped countries where
add a different language into the mix. Like like that.
That's where it gets really difficult, right? Like, I was really lucky for the first 2 or 3 weeks of the South America trip that we were with a bunch of people that spoke Spanish.
Great.
So we were kind of learning off them on the go. So by the time that I was by myself, I could like comprehend what people were saying in certain situations, and I was able to actually communicate what I was trying to say. Then when I got to Brazil for a week, that was quite difficult because I didn't speak any Portuguese. Could recite the Nando's menu, but that's about it.
What was it like being not able to speak the language by yourself? Because I experienced it in France with Georgie, where we were speaking English, and like they can speak English, but it's like we're kind of isolated, and it's kind of a really different, nice feeling to be just the two of us talking. And what was it like being by yourself? In
I really enjoyed it. Like I was scared, not scared as in like scared for my safety or anything, but I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, one time I got off a bus at like 11:30 at night and jumped into a taxi and just kind of like trying to
winged it.
just winged it. I'm just like trying to like use like hand signals and stuff as to like sleep, and like Google Translate wasn't working for Portuguese because I thought it had downloaded but it hadn't, and like so it was cool because like they get it that you don't speak the language, and it's not a well fuck you don't speak the language thing. It's like, oh, we'll just help. And I think, you know, I've always kind of had that belief that most people just want to help, and like some people are going to take advantage of that, but I was fortunate enough to not feel unsafe and not feel like that was going to happen. But it was really cool because I was just stuck in my head, and I was able to experience. It's kind of like being a fly on the wall in a different country. You can't like people watch for a couple of days. Like I just completely zoned out of having to think sometimes because I was just watching, and it was hard, but it was relatively easy once I let go of the need for control and the need to do it, because I think I could have made myself really anxious and really frustrated if I let it get to me.
Become detached from your situation, and you just accept. It's that acceptance of I'm in this environment which I'm unfamiliar with and maybe a little bit uncomfortable with, but
getting buses was hard. Like, I'd like point to a map and go Iguazu, and but like they say it differently.
Like, such a cream map.
Yeah, there was one, I can't remember what the word was, but there was one word that was saying wrong the whole time. And it was something really it's gonna drive me crazy. It was something really obvious, but I was trying to say it, and it's just like there was, when we were in Japan, Kyle and I got to the station, somehow bought a ticket. Like we were literally from I don't know how it happened. From Tokyo to getting on the Shinkansen bullet train to getting on the local train, we talked to a couple of people and had no idea what they were saying. They had no idea what we were saying, but we were just like trying to point to maps and stuff. That's awesome. But then we got to Myoko, where the Johnson's hotel is, and so the hotel's called Refre. Get around it. But so there was like literally 11:30 at night. Like, let's stop traveling places really late at night. But it was snowing. We had our bags. I didn't have any snow gear because I was borrowing it all off Dan while we were there. And we were like, there was one taxi driver. There was no one for a while, and then one taxi driver pulls up, and we said Refre Hotel. Like, we knew it was close. Like, it's in the same like little, I don't know if you call it a suburb. But it was like, no idea. Like, he had no clue. Couldn't find the address. We obviously didn't have any Wi-Fi or anything like that. Dan had just gone out and drank beers instead of coming and hanging out, like coming and find us. Priorities. But so it turns out, like, it's really simple that like Japanese don't pronounce R's. It's not part of their language, so it's lefle. So it's an L instead of an R. And it took him calling another taxi driver friend, and that taxi driver friend calling another taxi driber friend for him to go lefle. No.
I guess.
Let's just sleep there. I don't get
So there's from grade 1 to year 9 doing Japanese, did fuck all for me. But just like it's such a simple thing for you to not be able to communicate basic things, but like I'll remember that feeling of like, oh, we're fucked here, we got no idea what we're doing.
Well, I had one in France, and I had an exchange with a French guy, and I made him believe I was French because I didn't say a word of English. I was like, go back to the car, I was like, he thinks I'm French. Like, didn't have to use any English. I was like, bonjour, merci, bonjour. It's like, he doesn't even know I'm Australian. It's like,
I reckon he knew.
He probably did. But in my mind, I was like, didn't have to speak English. What a winner. Just little things like that. They make, I don't know.
Do you guys have like one travel destination that you want to go to, like before you die or before you die? You know?
So many.
I think too many.
I don't have one where I'm just like, that's where I want to go next. Like, Philippines is going to be our next trip, and it's going to be awesome. But it's not like there's one place there that I want to go. Like Machu Picchu was like one. Patagonia was one.
It'd be cool to see all the 7 wonders. I reckon that'd be something that, even though they're such, it's almost like it's such a popular tourist destination that it's kind of ruins it.
Yeah, I realise that there's reasons for it though. Like
It's
you
just
stand
that,
at the top
yeah,
of the Geyser
there's-
Falls, or like stand top of Machu Picchu. You just like,
Wow.
nah, this is going to be like people are going to talk it up too much. It's going to be one of those underwhelming things. And you get there, and it's like,
Wow.
I had that with the Grand Canyon. It'd been talked up so
Grand
many
Canyon's
times. It's like,
amazing.
yeah,
like cool, but I'd just come through. Like I did the north side with Heath,
Right.
and then back down through Flagstaff to the south where
Yeah.
you go into it. And I was like, I've just seen all these canyons. It's kind of like
Bit underwhelming.
underwhelmed me now. Like, and some of the other stuff was like more incredible and more remote and more unique. Like I think,
those
it's
like
so hard to
moments where
taper.
you just like
Yeah.
have to like,
Yeah.
that was like,
yeah.
I imagine like standing in front of the pyramids.
yeah,
That would be pretty epic. And just to think that a human civilization 3,000
Well, let's not open
thousands
up.
of years
Let's
ago.
not open up a Pandora's box, mate. I don't know if it was humans.
Well,
If I edited my podcast, I could put the X-Files music over the top of this. Yeah, I think I'd love to go to Antarctica, but it's not like
yeah.
pulling at me.
Yeah.
And it's pyramids and like Colosseum.
I think it'd
and
be
stuff like that.
really cool too. This
The
is
ancient world.
bit random, but somewhere like Iran,
Yeah,
that'd be pretty cool.
yeah,
I've had people I've talked to who've gone there say that even though there's such like a stigma around it, that the people there are actually lovely, the food's awesome.
Yeah.
There's no real feeling of being unsafe.
Yeah. I don't know. North Korea.
Yeah.
Imagine.
there's the line. Like, I have no desire. I have absolutely
I'm just
no
like,
desire.
what the heck's going on in here?
Yeah.
Like to be able to get in and out safely.
It's
And
terrible.
just be like, what's going on? Like,
I think-
that used to be a Michael Jordan poster, but now it's like Kim just like dunking. What the heck? Like what's going on
He
in
won
there?
the World Cup single-handedly.
Yeah.
2008.
Like you hear the joke about all those articles, but I wonder like how much of it is actually true propaganda and what's actually happening on the inside. Just to be like,
Yeah.
you're kidding me, this is happening?
Yeah, it's a different world.
Yeah, that would be so weird. Like my kind of desire around travel now, like rightly or wrongly, is to experience more countries.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, it's not a like tick the boxes, just get there. But
Have
I
an
think of the
experience.
12 or 13 countries I've been to, each one I've got specific memories from, either by, like who I was with or what it was like.
Yeah.
And you know, if I can add another 30 countries to that list over the next 10 years, then awesome. Keep going.
Yeah.
Next one. Sorry, I forgot to start the timer for that, so that was like a little longer. But
That's okay.
Play on. Ooh.
As you were.
Whose do I go next?
You just pick it out of the hat, mate.
Yeah, I might put the hat on.
I know. I can see.
So the,
Heater in this
so the
office.
next one's something that. So this is a conversation, part of a conversation that we've had, and that it came up again this morning. So I was just like, I'll just throw it in. And it's reciprocity. So doing things because you either like, why do we do nice things for other people, and why do we create things, and why do we have certain conversations, and why do we put ourselves in positions? Is it for our own like benefit, or is it for the other person's benefit? And do we do it always expecting nothing in return? Do we have that subconscious I'm going to do this nice thing because it might come back to me? Yeah, what do you guys think?
For me, I don't know. I'd like to think, and I think a lot of people have told me it, but I do live my life very much trying to serve others and do everything for other people.
Yeah.
Probably, and you've told me this, and other people have told me this. I need to look after myself a bit better, but it's probably a lot to do with my faith, and I just think the philosophy is if you live to help and benefit other people, they'll do the same, and it will come back to you. I get a lot of self-fulfillment and purpose from doing stuff for other people, so it doesn't feel like a chore. It doesn't feel like you're waiting for it to be returned, or you're not keeping checks and balances. It's very much you do it because you believe that that's the best way to live, and you're building up the community, making the community better, and the world a better place slowly. Just living selflessly for me it's how I've lived for probably since like 19 now, consciously,
All those years ago.
oh, it's so long ago. Very clean shaven back then. It's much better now.
What's shit now? You got rid of it.
I shaved it, but it's coming back.
You definitely did that for yourself because no one else wants to see your face.
Wow, savage.
Must say I like your beer, right?
Yeah, fair. But no, I don't know. It's like I totally get it, and I think there's a balance.
Yeah.
I think there's a balance. But for me, I would skew more to looking after others and living to help build others up, hoping that would then come back.
What goes around comes around.
Yeah, not expecting it, but like hoping that by doing that, I'm making the world a better place, and that I'll be lifted up. Like, what's that quote about? Like a rising tide. Like
A rising tide floats all boats.
yeah. So to that in that floats all boats. Good.
I paraphrase it, but
I like it. But
This is better.
that's probably how I would think about it. Is if I'm doing my part to kind of build up everyone else, I'll kind of get dragged up with and being looked after in that kind of respect.
I think all of our responses are going to be fairly similar in that our vision or our purpose is to serve others and make the world a better place. So, and by serving others, we'll be fulfilled ourselves.
Yeah.
And there's something I was listening to a podcast the other day with Logan again. I'm fangirling a lot at the moment, but he was talking about how to make the world a better place, or how to be a better human and let that serve the community or the broader community is to give back to others. Yeah. But that needs to come from a place of self-respect and come from a place of truth rather than a place of self-sacrifice. Yeah. So you're not serving others to be a martyr and to be seen as someone who you're so selfless and you're such a giver and you're such a good person.
Yeah.
That's not the reason why we do it. We do it for the sole purpose to help others and lift them up.
Yeah.
It's like a parent sacrificing their quality of life for their kids.
Yeah.
It in the end doesn't help, because then the kids see that cycle, and you almost that parent needs to be looking after their kids but teaching them how important it is to respect themselves and to look after themselves, and their time is valuable and all that kind of stuff. Because you see those certain relationships in our society where, like, we'll use a parent for example, where the kids just walk all over them because the parent just wants to please their kids. And
that's likely to come back later in life when they expect the child to look after them in their retirement or when they need the help themselves.
Yeah, and I think I kind of look at this from a couple of different angles. It's, you need to look after yourself first. You need to create your environment and cultivate your life first. Otherwise, you're giving from a place like where you're losing ground. If you cultivate your mindset, environment, work ethic, all those kind of things, you can give a lot more. And it's like we talked about before about not being money driven, and I'm definitely not money driven. If anything, I want less in my life to make it more fulfilled. Minimalism was something I was going to talk about today, but I forgot to write it down. But I find more joy with less. I'm trying to find more joy in less, and I am in certain areas of my life. But if I don't have energy and time and things to give, then I can't necessarily create momentum for anyone else. And we use the example of our birthday bash every year, how we try and raise money for Rye. First of all, I do that for Rye, but I get a whole lot of happy, fluttery feelings when I see that make a difference, and I see our community get around those legends and see them actually help. So I think everyone wants to help, but there is no such thing as true altruism where you help purely for the benefit of someone else and without anything in return.
You do need to be selfish sometimes, I think.
And I think, like you were saying, it'll come back, and it does. But what we need to understand is that if I tip in and help, say, you with something for the next 6 months, then I don't need to expect something back from you, but it'll come back in other parts of my life.
Yeah. It doesn't have to come back from that person.
It's not a direct trade for trade.
No, it's not a checks and balances either. It's you, and like we talked about with time, your time is more valuable sometimes than you realise.
Yeah.
It's the act of sacrificing for someone else potentially, or giving up something for someone else, or trying to do something for someone else, it'll come back and someone else will want to do something for you and look after you, and it might not be the same person, might be someone else, might be in a different way, but that's how I feel, and I want to live in a community that's like that looks after others. Well, I think flip it to a community that looks after. Well, it's not a community then if you're just looking after yourself, and that's the issue for me. Is looking after yourself first is important. I agree. But if you're always looking, how can I fix myself? How can I make myself better? But then you're not sharing that outwardly. Like you might be a better person, like factually, but if you're not then using that to help build your community back up, what's the point? Like,
and then it's just that ecosystem of people that want to help and want to support you, and then everyone in your circle are like getting around you when you're up and about, but then getting up and helping you when you're not. Like I love, I mentioned before, but Grant's someone that like I see him struggling with shit at work, and like my first thing is like I just want to help him look after himself a little bit better, or you know, give him a sounding board for like what's going on and stuff like that. And then like a week later, like I just do that because it makes me feel better being able to help, and I know that it'll help him. But a week later he'll be like, "You look like shit, what's up?" And it's just that honest ability to be able to communicate with each other and around what's happening. And like there's so many, I find myself, the people and the circles that I'm surrounding myself with, people start to notice more when you're up and when you're not. And you're actually able to, like, I don't have faith like you have faith. I don't believe in a higher divine power or anything like that. But I think one of the things I do believe in is its energy. That the more energy that you can create within yourself and give out, the more that will come back to you. One of the nicest things anyone's ever said to me. So most of us have heard the quote: "If you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's." And guess what they have planned for you? Not much. That's so. I really like that quote in the fact that you're responsible and you're in charge of whatever the fuck happens to you in life. But one of the things, like Greg said to me once was, and he kind of said it to the team. But he said, except for Lockie, who's trying to design a mutually beneficial life plan. And I remember, he probably just said it, he probably would have forgotten, but it was something that I remembered, and I was just like, that is exactly what I'm trying to do, because it's, you know, what's good for the swarm is good for the bee kind of thing. Like if I try by myself and fail, then I fail. If I try by myself and succeed, then I succeed. But that's not enough for me. Like I want that group of people, that community, that family of people that are...
You want to see others rise.
I want to see others rise and are in it for the long term. Like it doesn't have to be in it for the long term in terms of in the same position doing the same shit in 20 years. But, you know, if it's a part of your life or a chapter in your life or a season in your life, then, and you move on, then hopefully in 20 years you can look back and say, I had a part of that. Like every staff member we've had that aren't still with us had a big part in where we are now, which is awesome, and I hope they can look back on that fondly. Like if you decided in, like say you loaded up a Common for the next 5 years and you decided to leave, you left it in a better position than when you got there. Or if it's the other side and you're still there in 30 years, you're like, fuck, how cool is this thing we've created? There's been a bunch of people through, but that core group of people that you've been able to cultivate and create that with, like how good your relationship going to be, and your respect for each other and your love for each other, because there's that constant, consistent tipping in year after year after year.
And I think it goes back to that sacrifices and stuff as well. Like there's times where you forego something, or you do something for the benefit of someone else or for the business, or you do those things and you live in a way that's for others. And there's an expectation that like one day it'll be my turn and this will be the right one, and it's going to be so much better that I've foregone that prior opportunity which I could have selfishly taken. Or so like I've talked about on the previous podcast with that New York opportunity with roasting coffee. Like it was there, it was on the table, it was ready to go, but it wasn't right, and I had to go with Common Folk and stick with Common Folk. And look at me now, like 2 years on from that. I think it
no
is.
beard.
Look at me,
No
bitches.
beard, but like I could have easily been 2 years into being in New York.
Yeah.
Might have been miserable, might have had all the money, wouldn't have had any of this community that I currently have now.
Yeah.
So many things. So sometimes doing something for others and sacrificing, so doing something that I thought was the best for common folk and then probably me as well.
There's so many things that you've been able to grow, like not unintentionally, but not expect, like may not have expected to have these same communities and things like that.
But I think people want to give to selfless people as well. It's you don't want to sacrifice something yourself to give to a selfish person.
Yep.
It's very hard. Whereas if you see someone else who's living to benefit others, like yourself, like you two, are both trying to better other people all the time, I'm happy to donate time and effort and things to you guys because I'm like, they're going to appreciate it. So I think that's how it...
And you do it out of love and respect rather than out of the need to get something
Whereas
back.
if it's a selfish kind of person that's receiving it, you're like, well, that's going to fall on dead ears and they don't really give a crap because they're not going to then pass that on to someone else. So
And I think, like, I want to create an environment where people get a lot but also have to give a lot because then everyone's tipping into the well, and rather than it just being a
Everyone's serving each other themselves. Everyone's serving the greater
to serve themselves. They serve each other.
Purpose.
And it, obviously, here's where it gets difficult, right? Because everyone's got their own purpose. Everyone wants to look after themselves. Everyone, if we have basic income, then maybe it's not an issue as much. But like one of the like analogies I've used in the past is like that friendships are like a bank account, and like friendships, relationships, whatever. Like there might be a 6 month period where, like, say, Coop's going through some stuff where I've got to keep chipping into that bank account. Like every week I got to make a deposit and look after him, and then eventually when he's kind of working through it, like he might start he might have a full bank account that he's able to start giving to someone else and start filling their bank account, and then obviously like he'll throw back into my bank account, and then you're constantly like you're constantly rising it up, and you're not just take because friendships sometimes like it's take for a long period of time. But usually if you have that relationship with someone, you know that this is just a season, or this is just a period of time where they need my funds to fuel their bank account, and then Coop might give someone else, and obviously it's a big web of that. But and when I need help, like I know that I've got people around me to help fuel my bank account.
It's hard to know when to. On the flip side, hard to know when to withdraw your funds and
it's hard
put them somewhere else.
But it's so hard to ask for help.
And that's why I think and this is a good group of people as well, because I think we're very good at, like, if I see you down, I'll like, hey, let's grab breakfast or let's do something, and tell you, hey, you need to take some time for yourself, you need to not do this, or and I think that's...
Tell me how to live my life.
Yeah, I will. You probably shave your face and then we can both be clean skinned.
Oh, I think gross. I might do it.
But I think having close friends like that you give and receive from, you can then kind of tell them to withdraw some from the bank account, as opposed to like just waiting for them. Like, I'll tell you when you need, when I need to give you some more time and effort and energy, and
you've got to know who's going to, like, who you can actually give your money to, and know that not necessarily they'll give it back to you, but they'll be able to give it back to someone else, right? Like if I'm struggling and going through some hard times, like my however many thousand Instagram followers I've got aren't going to jump on the phone and call me and ask me how I'm going, right? Same with Facebook. Like, so we've got to understand that human connection, and actually the people around us, they're the people that you need to ask for help. Like, like don't put some like a message like out there to the world, because you just those likes aren't going to, like, that dopamine.
No one's going to tell you something bad.
Exactly.
How's this going to serve anyone?
Yeah, well, but that's exactly it. Like, it's, if I put out there like I'm not doing well, maybe I'll get a couple of messages. But if I come to Tommy or come to Coop or go to someone at the gym, like, okay, I'm struggling. Like, I need
it's real.
It's real, and you can actually have that connection.
This is going to tie really well into the next topic, but this sense of like connection and community is what promotes our sense of fulfillment and happiness. And
so for the next topic,
let's go to the next topic, because it will tie in.
What is happiness to you?
So, like, this is something that I've been thinking about a lot recently. It's been in a lot of books that I've been reading, and like what is happiness, and how do we define it, and how do we another question is how do we quantify it? But to me, this is a theory I'm working on. It's called the pyramid of happiness.
Ooh.
It's not really a pyramid, it's more of just a triangle, but
Coops?
I'm going to copyright this.
The dodecahedron of happiness.
So for me, happiness boils down to three things. It's connection, fulfillment, and environment. And if you can cultivate those three things, then for me, I'll be happy. And reading a lot about connection and having community and people around you that are serving you and you're serving others is just like we kept coming back to it in this last conversation. Lachlan's created a bit of a image which we might be able to share at some point, but yeah, I mean those three things are things that we sometimes neglect. Like we might put ourselves in an environment which is detrimental to our happiness and detrimental to our sense of belonging and sense of fulfillment. But if we put ourselves in an environment that there's no choice but to succeed or create connections, then that's super valuable. There's a book. What's it called again? Willpower.
Willpower doesn't work.
Yeah, which is awesome, and it's essentially just about how to create an environment where there's no choice but to succeed. And in this case, there's no choice but to be happy. So you got to cultivate an environment around you that leads to that.
What's your definition? And or what's important, or what is it?
Man, like a lot of that's very similar. I think being happy is more than just the light and fluffy. Like it's the recognition that sometimes it sucks. But being settled and happy in that as well. Like understanding all of your emotions and all your feelings and all the situations, and getting to a point of like, that's fine. Like, cool. I'm happy with that. Like,
I think part of I was tossing whether to add two other elements in there and make it a star, but I'm happy with the pyramid. The star.
Doesn't sound like you are.
But so
make it a rhombus.
Under fulfillment comes challenges and experience. Like we've got the sense of satisfaction of overcoming challenges.
And
the experiences that we have that contributes to the connection and contributes to our fulfillment. Is super important.
I obviously believe very similar to what you guys believe, but I think for me and like going through and working on like these kind of theories and thoughts, I think happiness is your ability to be going through a difficult, painful, like you're going through suffering and being able to, whilst in that period of suffering, be able to understand that it's just a phase and it's just a season, it's just a learning curve, that it's like the universe's way of challenging you to adapt and overcome whatever it is that you're struggling with, and that allows you to be a little bit more aware and a little bit more present in the good times, and when things are going well, and like actually stop and take a breath and like realize how far you've come, and that improvement
gives you perspective.
Because
we talked about this in my first podcast. It was like you need that very, very bottom end to like show how high the mountaintop is. Like if everyone was always up, like it doesn't seem that up.
Well, look at the climbing a mountain, for example. Like there's that really difficult times of climbing a mountain, and there's times where on the way up there's those downhills where you're like, yes, we're rolling now, we're feeling good, but then you hit with another uphill, and eventually you get to the top of the mountain and you have a look over and you realise that there's another mountain that's a little bit higher. But between that, getting to the top of that mountain, and there's that descent that you've got to go down, and where you actually start rolling and everything goes well for a while, but then usually there's a big valley in between. And I think if we understand that it's not always good and it's not always bad, sometimes we just got to consolidate and move forward, and then that valley that is sometimes, some people deal really well with suffering and some people deal really well with success. but most of us don't deal very well with lack of progress or lack of like when we're walking through that valley, there's no real ups or downs. It's just you've just got to keep stepping left or right foot.
Yeah.
So we lose that ability to see progress or see a challenge, even though the challenge is just continually moving. Like that whole, if you're not growing, you're dying thing. I think it's like that's a really important part of my life. And I think if I'm standing still, then I'm going backwards. If I'm taking steps forward, then even if I'm not moving as fast as I want, something.
That's an interesting point as well. Not attaching our happiness to either goals or external things. I think it was in the 70s that there was this study done. So it was a while ago, but I think it's still relevant. That the experimenters gave a bunch of people a survey, and the participants were people from varying income levels. So there were people who are very poor, not very wealthy, and there were other people who are ultra wealthy. And they examined the happiness levels of all these participants, and there was no correlation between material wealth and happiness. And even while the possession of resources or material objects contributed to unsatisfaction, contributed towards unhappiness, there was no correlation between the having these resources. So it didn't make you any happier to have resources and these materialistic things. So being attached to material resources is not going to make you any happier.
No.
It's the cultivation of relationships and meaningful experiences that make us happy.
Yeah, well, I think coming back to like Maslow's hierarchy of needs is something that I think we've mentioned it.
Good old Maslow.
Look, in 62 episodes we talked about every topic at least a little bit, but like having physiological needs as one, making sure that you're sleeping and eating and have water, and then safety second, so like having somewhere to live and make sure you're not going to get eaten by a lion or a drop bear if you're from Australia. Like having social needs, so having that connection, and then having that feeling of like that self-esteem and being able to actually feel good about yourself and have self-worth, and then from there it's like self-actualization, which is just growth. So I feel like we have these conversations because we're at the top of that pyramid. Like we've got like we all feel pretty good about ourselves most of the time. We have that love and belonging. Like we've got somewhere to live. We're safe. We've got enough food, we've got enough water and everything. So we're at that self-actualization stage for the majority of the time, where we can actually look at like improving where we're at and not just surviving. And I think like 80 grand is like what most, like that's how much you need to be happy. Any more than that's just extra or something like that.
I'm not sure. I know that like if you earn more than if you earn more than $30,000 US per year, you're in the top 1% of the world. So, I mean that
sounds wrong.
Well, think about how many millions are in like South America and Africa and Asia who live off $1 a day. Like like a meal there costs only $1 compared to here where a meal costs $20.
Yeah.
But
so cost of living
it's relative, but that's still, I guess.
There you go. So
I guess I just poked a hole in that fact because
damn it, cost of living's low.
Damn it! But it's still an interesting point that it just reinforces that study. Like having material wealth doesn't make you any happier. And quantifying it is super interesting as well. Like how if you compared one of us living in a relatively wealthy Western country, Australia, compared to someone in Southeast Asia, like, am I any happier than that person? Because I have all these.
You can drive a car, things. You can jump on your laptop, you can, like all my photos on Instagram.
So in Bhutan, and I think the UK are looking to do this as well. They're actually quantifying happiness So they've got a happiness index where they, it's awesome. So they look at, I'm just looking at something now, but the index is based off 9 domains: psychological well-being, health, education, time use, cultural diversity and resilience, good governance, community vitality, ecological diversity and resilience, and living standards. So I think how they calculate this is they go out to a whole bunch of people in their country, and they give them a questionnaire based on all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then I assume it's something to do, like, economically. They try and they created this national happiness index to build policy around.
Yeah.
But I reckon that's super interesting. Like, you're quantifying how people a subjective feeling.
Yeah, it's true, but like, it's perspective as well. Like,
Definitely.
Yeah.
Someone with those boxes ticked should be categorically happier than someone that has less of those boxes.
But it's not a constant feeling, right? Like,
no,
so
totally.
like
but I think you're more likely to be happy, and happiness is easier and more accessible with those boxes ticked. Is all I can say. Like, I mean, what more can a government do than provide you with those things?
Basics,
and if you're still not happy, there's something to do, I guess.
Perspective and gratitude, like you said, perspective, but gratitude and being able to go, well, here's what I have, and I love having this, and it's like, even the days where, like, I'm stressed about bills, or I'm stressed about, like, not being busy enough, or not being able to find time to spend with people that I love, I have the autonomy to move things around, and I have the ability to change things, and like, I'm in charge in like I'm the captain of my ship. I get to decide what I spend my minutes doing, even if it doesn't necessarily serve me right then and there. Like, I know I'm tipping into like a bigger picture.
That comes down to freedom. Like, you've got the freedom to do what you want to do, and to put your efforts and your energy into things that serve you.
Yeah, maybe that's the thing. Like, qualifying happiness is the point where you have the freedom to make a decision on what you do next.
That's my one. That's like my one thing that I'm chasing.
Yeah.
Like, I think I've been lucky enough last couple of days. I've had 2 conversations with people that have sought me out and come to me because they aren't sure what they want to do with their lives, and like, that's a really cool responsibility to have. Like, and I kind of go into those conversations with, I still have no fucking idea what I'm doing with my life. Like, I love what I'm doing every day, but I'm still trying to figure it out. Yeah. And my first question I ask is, what do you want to spend your day doing?
Yeah, if money was no object.
Yeah, but just like no other information. Just, what do you want to spend your day doing? And cool. It's kind of like, we think about it and talk about it. A lot of people don't. Like, what do you want to spend your day doing? And it's like, well, I don't know. Like, think about it. Like, for me, it's, I want to have the freedom to do what I want to do. So everything that I'm doing comes back to freedom, and money is a big part of that. Community is a big part of that. Connections a big part of that. Growth in terms of personal development and personal and business development are 2 big parts of that, because if I can cultivate all these different areas of my life, podcast is part of it, then I have the freedom to jump on it and record this conversation. Like, I have the freedom to sleep in and have breakfast with you this morning. Like, I have freedom to go to footy tonight, and even though I'm not necessarily going to be happy getting up at 3:30 tomorrow morning to jump in the car, like, I have the freedom to get in a vehicle, drive to pick up Coop, go to the airport, and go on a little trip that's going to help us improve what we do. So I think these are the I don't know, my final answer to that what is happiness question is just freedom. Freedom is perspective. I'm going to make a hexagon.
Look, I'm happy to amendments.
And we do like a Lockie Wallace annex to the triangle.
No, but it's actually it's not a triangle. It's a pyramid. So there's another couple of extra.
It's gone 3
extra points. Yeah. Wait, there's only one extra point.
No, it depends on what kind of pyramid. Is it a triangular or a square?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Bam.
Yeah. Look at us. To finish off that question. We've got 15 seconds left on the timer, but I don't know. I've been in a real bad habit lately of jumping onto YouTube and just going down rabbit holes like late at night. So TED Talks have been a big thing, but then following themes from TED Talks, I'll dive into other ones.
Cool.
A Bob Marley interview came up yesterday about happiness and about being rich, and I'll play it for the people, and we'll finish the podcast on this.
Money. I mean, how much is a lot of money to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Have you made, say, millions of dollars?
No.
Are you a rich man?
When you mean rich, what you mean?
You have a lot of possessions? A lot of money in the bank?
Position make you rich? I don't have that type of richness. My richness is life forever.
That's awesome.
Be good.